G'day everyone, I am the Red Scar. This is Red Scar Gaming. Today is my summary of my 7th draft of Lost Caverns of Ixalan. I used a Dimir Graveyard Matters deck, and it did alright. I was hoping it did a bit better, but hey, I'd like to win 7 games every time, that's alright. But yeah, I'll go through everything and sort of tell you how they all went. Greedy Freebooter, I'm just generally happy with it in general. Like, it's certainly not a game winner, but it's a good card to play turn 1, because you don't even mind sacking it to something that's not particularly dangerous, because you get that Scry 1 and that little bit of ramp with it. So in this particular case, I didn't use the ramp particularly well, but the Scry was useful. And yeah, it's just a generally good card for 1 mana. Echo of Dusk is sort of one of the cards that I didn't really need. Like, it's certainly not a win condition, but it's pretty good for 2 mana if you get that Descend 4 in particular. I don't think I played it turn 2 ever, but that's just a bit of bad luck maybe. It's still a good card. From memory, I didn't actually verse too many creatures that were particularly large. So if I got the Descend 4, Echo of Dusk would have been pretty dang good for a trade, and it would have even been pretty good for a chump blocker occasionally. Though, yeah, I'd definitely go with it again. Though I did definitely need something for 2 mana cost creature anyway. Excuse me. Sorry, that was a hiccup. Anyway, Fanatical Offering, I got lots of use out of actually, particularly with Mephitic Draft. It does really well in that little combo because it's basically draw 4 cards, lose 2 life, which with that little combo is really good. I didn't actually use it as much as I'd probably like to with sack a different artifact, but Mephitic Draft is really good for the sack outlet anyway, so I'm certainly not complaining at all. I maybe shouldn't have relied on it as much as I did in the long run, but I mean, that's sort of clutching at straws there a little bit, and yeah, sort of Mephitic Draft is sort of covered with that as well. I got several opportunities to use that or combo that with Zoetic Glyph, because then, like, when it dies, you're sort of like, oh well, I draw a card, and it's a 5/4 anyway, and you get the whole Discover 3. So yeah, it's a good little combo there, and I think it did quite effectively. Tithing Blade is another one of those cards that you got to be a little careful with when you use it. I think game 5 and 6 in particular, I sort of demonstrated that sometimes you just have to play it for not necessarily the best move, but it's a pretty good move anyway. Game 6 in particular, the consuming Sepulchre part of it helped, but it would not have won me the game just because my opponent had a lot of lifelink anyway. So you got to be a little bit careful when the whole craft ability would otherwise be triggered. But even just the 2 mana for target opponent sacrifices their first creature, it's not bad, especially considering that this deck is pretty low on creatures for the first, well, even sort of 3-4 turns, as you can see by that graph as well. So yeah, it did work out. I might have been able to use a third one a little better, but I would have been relying on it too much maybe. Zoetic Glyph, I'm really lucky that I got 2 copies of it. I'm sure that it could have been used a bit more effectively with, say, different cards, but it's still very good. Actually, did I get to use it turn 3? It might have only been once or twice actually, because it's definitely a very, very good card to play turn 3 with the right setup. But yeah, I don't think I got too many uses of it turn 3. But anyway, even turn 5, it's not a terrible card to have, and especially because I got the death trigger several times pretty effectively. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. Definitely go with that again. Screaming Phantom is sort of the one card that I just needed a bit of flying with. while I probably didn't get the whole milling ability as well as I'd hoped for, it's certainly not a bad effect. I did, if memory serves, I'll just have a look there briefly. It was, I did get another 2, so I'm glad that I dropped the other, what would otherwise be 2 more creatures. I might have even been able to drop 1 more, maybe, but yeah, I'll think about that a bit later. Join the Dead, I didn't get as much use out of as I probably hoped for. It's not bad just as a 3 mana cost, destroy target 5/5 or X5. I certainly didn't get any use out of it just as a sort of a combat trick, but I mean that's all right. It's still a good card. The Descent 4 part of it I didn't get to use, but I'm certainly not complaining here. So it's a good card. Got some use out of it. I can't think of anything in particular that it sort of won me the game because of that, but that's all right. And Blood Rage Mycoid, as I said when I was drafting it, it's the only 4 mana cost anything that I got. So I knew from the start that I was going to play either a lot of stuff at the start and sort of rely on the high mana cost stuff, and Blood Rage Mycoid was sort of the in between there. I didn't get as many fungus tokens as I probably could have. With other combos aside, but yeah, look, it's not really a reliant. It was just sort of something that, look, if I've got 4 mana, it's probably the best way to go. So I'm glad I got it. Defossilize, I got some pretty dang good use out of, actually, especially when you combo it with the likes of Rampaging Spiketail, which I think I used it. Actually, yeah, just off the top of my head, did I use that every time for Rampaging Spiketail? Anyway, the Spiketail. Anyway, whatever I used it for, it's certainly a good card. So, yeah, I'm very glad I got it. The Explore twice, probably didn't get as much use out of the Explore bit as I maybe could have, but yeah, I mean, I'm picking at straws here. Ookbenback, whoever's, however you pronounce that, because I keep getting it wrong, he's still a good card, and definitely the sort of point that I can go on the aggressive more, especially with Vigilance and Menace, because there was several situations through, just off the top of my head, particularly the games where my opponents were playing Gruul, like aggro Gruul-y sort of stuff. He would have been particularly useful there. Just sort of get that 1 or 2 hits in, or at least take out a big creature. So, and yeah, the fact that I could have played him several times as well was good. I didn't actually get to do his Descendate cost, play from the graveyard as often as I'd probably hoped for, but I mean, he's still good. The Menace was probably, well, I mean, Vigilance Menace, how bad can it be? It's, definitely a good card, and I'm very lucky that I got 2 of them. Rampaging Spiketail, partly in thanks to Defossilize, did, I would argue, probably very well in this particular draft. It's, look, even the few times that I did just pay 6 mana for it, it's a 5/6 that ETBs with a pretty good effect. So, yeah, I definitely drafted again. Am I happy with the 2 though? Probably am happy with the 2 because you swamp cycle it, you're more likely to be able to play Defossilize and essentially play Spiketail a turn early because of Defossilize, and there were a few times that it was a 7/8 because of it. So, yeah, it's pretty good. It was the last game that I got to Defossilize 2 Rampaging Spiketail, and my opponent was just gaining way too much life for me to be able to deal with it. Otherwise, I probably would have all but steamrolled him. But yeah, congratulations to my opponent. Good work. Yeah, it was a very effective card. Marauding Brindfang, I did have 2 in deck for a little while. And just clutching at straws a little bit, maybe I should have had another one instead of Screaming Phantom. 1 more Screaming Phantom, I mean. Maybe. The island cycling, I know, was in no small part to be able to play Zoetic Glyph as soon as possible. Yeah, though there wasn't too many situations where I needed the island real quick. I think it was game 5 that I just sort of didn't draw it. Didn't draw an island anytime soon anyway. But look, that's just a little bit of bad luck. Yeah, maybe I should have had another Brine Fang in there. I didn't actually play it as a creature though, ever did I? So it is a bit more defensive than Rampaging Spiketail. So maybe I should have. Yeah, maybe I should have played it. Even one more instead of a Spiketail, maybe. Once again, clutching at straws there. I did change my lands there before. As you would have noticed in the draft, I dropped must have been 3 islands because I had Marauding Brinefang and Zoetic Glyph is the earliest blue card in there. And in all seriousness, even if I didn't ever draw any islands, it's not the worst deck ever. And yeah, sure, I definitely wanted the islands, but yeah, so I'm pretty happy that I dropped some of them. But yeah, maybe once again I should have kept one of the Brine Fangs in there. Yeah, though it wasn't a huge factor. So yeah, feel free to voice your opinion and tell me off or tell me I did an excellent job or whatever. Pat on the back. But yeah, that's the deck. I'm glad that I didn't go white just for Helping Hand. It's a good card, but in this particular deck, actually, I've only got 2, 4, 5 creatures in the entire deck that would have been able to get Helping Hand with anyway, and most of them are a bit reliant on the sort of heavier side of my deck anyway, so I wouldn't have got much use out of it. So yeah, definitely glad I didn't go white at all. Relic's Roar. There's a few situations I can think of just off the top of my head, mainly game 1, 2, 3, that Relic's Roar would have been very useful. Because there was a couple of situations where I had, say, 2 Mephitic Draft and a Tithing Blade or something out on the board, and I could have gone Relic's Roar, would have been particularly useful. So maybe I should have taken even Blood Rage Mycoid out for at least 1 Relic's Roar. Maybe Join the Dead. Yeah, that's a tough one actually. There's nothing jumping out at me as far as definitely should have had that instead of that or something like that. So yeah, there's definitely a situation where I could have used it. I suppose in that sense, Relic's Roar is more for a control heavy deck that relies on the likes of Mephitic Draft to make sure you draw cards as early in the game. So yeah, I suppose Relic's Roar would have been better if I was leaning more on control rather than playing big creature. Yeah, once again, tell me off if you want to, but maybe I should have drafted that one. Waterlogged Hulk. Yeah, I'm pretty glad I didn't keep that one. Because, yeah, there's a few times I could have milled card quite effectively, but it's ultimately, at least in this deck, it's ultimately 5 mana for a 4/4 crew 1, which I don't think is really a good way to play this particular card. It works better in other decks, but probably not this one. Inverted Iceberg is another one of those cards that it works really well with control. I at least have found. But yeah, it's another one of those situations where it's 8 mana for a 6/6 that I could have got some use out of, but if it's a choice between that and Brinefang, in this circumstance, I would have gone Brinefang. So yeah, I'm pretty happy I didn't draft that one. Field Cave Worm has its moments, but let's face it, at best for a 4/5, it's not great. Out of Air, I did very much consider drafting that one simply because I knew I wasn't going to have much of a board presence for even the first 4 turns. So Out of Air would have been useful. Though I think I'm glad I didn't put it in, because I would have had to take out probably Join the Dead. Would have been the best swap, because that's essentially remove creature, and Out of Air early game is better at removing creatures anyway. So yeah, yes, granted you can counter target spell rather than creature spell, but I think in general it would have replaced Join the Dead. And as I said while I was drafting, I could have gone mono black, and I very much considered that. So yeah, that's ultimately why I didn't put Out of Air in. The self-reflection was sort of a similar vein to that. It's almost defossilized in the sense that I can use it to play other creatures, but defossilized, I would argue, capitalized on the swamp cycling and island cycling and similar situations, and the fact that Ukbenbak is low toughness for the mana cost you have for it. So I think Defossilize is better than Self-Reflection, is sort of the long story short. And yeah, as I said, Marauding Brindfang, maybe I should have had one of them instead of Mycoid. Dead Weight, yeah, I very much considered that one just as removal. In hindsight, maybe I should have had that instead of one of my Tithing Blades, because most of the time when I played Tithing Blade, it was pretty early, and a deadweight would have killed whatever it was anyway. Yeah, though Tithing Blade does have the sort of lucky draw of your opponent has a 4/5 or something like that, and you make your opponent sack that. Yeah, though deadweight has the choice. So yeah, once again, there's nothing jumping out at me as far as what I should have gone. Maybe a Screaming Phantom. Yeah, feel free to argue there. Fungal Fortitude. Yeah, well, as I said when I was drafting all this, it was a pretty tough draft. Like there were a lot of decisions that, frankly, I could play this same deck again with probably all of these cards, and I'd have similar results, better results, bit of better luck or something like that. Fungal Fortitude, I suppose if I had to put it in, I'd probably get rid of maybe even Zoetic Glyph. Because Zoetic Glyph relies on artifacts, where Fungal Fortitude relies on creatures. Yeah, so if I had to put it in, but yeah, I'm sure you can at least see why I didn't. Skullcap Snarl, it's really good in control decks, but ultimately I wasn't playing a control deck, I think. Acolyte of Alcatraz, which I know is not how you pronounce it, but anyway. If I was going a bit wider, he's a lot better in Orzhov sort of sack outlet sort of stuff. It's just not the deck that he's in. And 4 Screaming Phantom, yeah, I definitely didn't need 4 Screaming Phantom. While I could have used the mill a few times, I don't think I'm questioning if I needed 2. So I definitely didn't need 4. Grasping Shadows has its moments. I'm just thinking, there wasn't actually many times that I attacked with just the one creature anyway. I'm sure I would have. Yeah, there'd be a situation where I should have with the one anyway. But yeah, Grasping Shadows I don't think would have been particularly effective in that draft. Vito's Inquisitor. Yeah, maybe I should have used that instead of Blood Rage Mycoid. Yeah, because most of my games ended up in a situation where, like, even when I was winning, I started winning when my opponent had a fair bit of life, at least compared to me. So the funguses, or I needed something to block with anyway. So the Vito's Inquisitor might have been a little better in that situation. Though, as I said when I was drafting it, I don't really want to rely on sacking my creatures, because early game in particular, I would be relying on sort of chump blockers a little bit. So I think I didn't want to put Vito's Inquisitor in, but I know it's a good card. It's just maybe this particular deck didn't work. Hidden Volcano, yeah, I'm sure you can figure out why I didn't want that one. Volatile Fault, it is really good in the right circumstance, but I don't think Draft is a particularly good one. And Runaway Boulder, look, has its moments, but for 6 mana, yeah, it's not really worth it. The cycling ability is probably the reason I would have put it in here. It would have, in fact, I probably would have only used it for cycling because, actually, off the top of my head, there wouldn't have been many games where I could have paid 6 mana to do 6 damage to something. So, though I would have had sack outlets for it, for the likes of Fanatical Offering, which, yeah, and Fanatical Offering is something I need to play pretty early game anyway, so Runaway Boulder wouldn't have been great. I suppose, yeah, look, I stand by what I said before, that I could probably swap a lot of the black and or blue cards for essentially that deck, and I'd still would have played a pretty good deck. But I'm quite happy with how that went. The only thing I'd sort of comparatively definitely go with was Screaming Phantom and Blood Rage Mycoid, and I'd probably go, say, Relics Raw and maybe Fungal Fortitude or Deadweight. Yeah, but as I said, though, I'm pretty happy with how that went. So thanks for watching. See you next time.